What does Russia really want? Is it trying to rebuild an empire? Become a fortress against the West? Or could it surprise us all and turn into a tech powerhouse? Russia's future is a mystery, but one thing is clear. It's at a crossroads, and the choice it makes will shape the world for decades. Today, we're diving deep into Russia's possible endgames. And trust me, it's not as simple as world domination. Let's start with one of the most talked about theories. Russia wants to rebuild its empire. Ever since the collapse of the Soviet Union, Russian leaders, especially Vladimir Putin, have expressed nostalgia for the days when Moscow controlled vast territories stretching across Eastern Europe and Central Asia. The invasion of Ukraine wasn't just about Ukraine. It was about sending a message to former Soviet states like Belarus, Moldova, and Kazakhstan. You're still in our sphere of influence. To Russia's leadership, NATO's expansion is a direct threat to this vision. Every time a former Soviet state joins the West, it pushes Russia further away from the superpower status it once had. That's why we've seen aggressive moves from Georgia in 2008 to Ukraine in 2014 and again in 2022. But here's the problem. Russia's military has struggled far more than expected. Many thought Ukraine would fall in weeks, yet here we are, with Russia bogged down in a costly and grinding war. If Russia continues down this imperial path, it risks endless conflict, economic sanctions, and global isolation. And the big question is, can Russia even afford to sustain an empire anymore? But what if Russia isn't trying to expand? What if it just wants to cut itself off from Western influence and survive on its own? This is the idea of Fortress Russia, a self-sustaining civilization that doesn't rely on Western markets, technology, or approval. We're already seeing this play out. Since the invasion of Ukraine, Russia has been hit with some of the harshest sanctions in modern history. Western companies have left, cutting Russia off from critical technology, financial systems, and global trade networks. In response, Russia has started strengthening its relationships with China, India, and Iran, nations that are willing to do business with Moscow despite the sanctions. Russia is now focusing on building its own industries, from energy production to military manufacturing, to keep itself afloat. But there's a major flaw in this plan. Unlike China, Russia doesn't have a massive manufacturing base that can replace Western imports. It relies heavily on exporting raw materials like oil, gas, and metals, things that don't generate long-term economic growth. Without a strong industrial sector, Fortress Russia could end up more like North Korea, militarized and isolated, but struggling to innovate or compete with the global economy. But maybe Russia doesn't want to be alone. Maybe it's playing the long game, waiting for a shift in global power where it can position itself as a leader in a new world order. Instead of fighting against the West alone, Russia could be working to build a powerful alliance that rivals NATO in Western influence. We already see hints of this strategy with the rise of BRICS, an economic alliance between Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Russia is also deepening its trade partnerships with African nations and Middle Eastern powers like Iran. By creating an alternative economic and political system, Moscow could avoid complete dependence on China while still challenging Western dominance. But here's the catch. Russia isn't the strongest economy in this group. While it might have military power economically, it lags far behind China and India. If this new world order forms, Russia may have to accept a secondary role, with Beijing calling the shots. And that raises a big question. Is Russia willing to be a junior partner in a China-led world? Now let's talk about a scenario that seems unlikely, but could change everything. What if Russia shifts its focus away from war and isolation, and instead becomes a magnet for technology and innovation? It might sound crazy, but Russia has a long history of scientific and engineering excellence, from launching the first satellite, Sputnik, to leading in nuclear physics and cybersecurity. Russia has produced some of the best minds in the world. If Russia were to invest in AI, space technology, and cybersecurity, it could attract top scientists and entrepreneurs. A modernized economy, free from corruption and bureaucracy, could make Russia a major player in the global tech industry. Imagine a Silicon Valley of the East, Russia competing with the US and China in cutting-edge fields. But the reality is much darker. Right now, Russia is driving talent away instead of attracting it. Economic instability, censorship, and political oppression are pushing some of its best scientists and engineers to leave for the West. Unless major reforms happen, this future remains a fantasy. And then there's the nightmare scenario, Russia collapsing from within. It might sound extreme, but history has proven that even the most powerful empires can fall apart. The Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, and there's a possibility that modern Russia could face a similar fate. Russia is a vast country with over 190 ethnic groups. Some regions like Chechnya and Tatarstan have strong independence movements. If Russia weakens, we could see regional breakaways, internal conflicts, or even a struggle for power within Moscow itself. If that happens, who controls Russia's nuclear arsenal? What happens to its vast natural resources? The world would be thrown into chaos. Now, a total collapse might be unlikely, but even a weakened Russia could lose influence over key regions. A shrinking, unstable Russia could be just as dangerous as an expansionist one. So, what is Russia's endgame? Right now, it seems to be a mix between Fortress Russia and Eurasian superpower. The country is cutting itself off from the West while trying to build new alliances. But can it last? Will Russia pivot toward innovation and economic reform? Or will it collapse under its own weight? Only time will tell. What do you think? Which scenario sounds the most realistic? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more thought-provoking content. See you in the next video.